Welcome to the Final Score Network and the Final Score podcast presented by Team Anders Realtors. I'm Andy. He's former NCAA student athlete and co-host.
Ryan, jam, two-hand monster flush off the inbound. Ryan, gam, slam, jam.
Subscribe to us on Podbean, the Apple Podcast Store, Spotify, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Follow us on Twitter at TheFinalScore35 and TikTok at AGSpartanFan35. Oh, and one more note before we get started.
I'd like to apologize to anyone I've not offended yet. Please be patient. I'll get to you shortly.
Welcome into TFS Pod 184, July 31st. We got NFL football tomorrow, folks. It's just the Hall of Fame game. I think the Bears aren't playing stars, but it's football. It's going to be on TV. That's cool. And we're like 3 weeks away from college football kicking off week 0, and Michigan State's first game is 4 weeks from Friday. That's super exciting. And lots going on in sports. Olympics going on right now. Watch a little bit of that. Golf starts tomorrow at 3 in the morning, so set your alarms. Baseball trade deadline came, and the Tigers waited to the last second to deal a guy. Whatever, they suck. They're hopeless. Who cares? It's baseball. The season's too long. We've said that for as long as we've done this podcast, for almost 4 years in December. So, nevertheless, lots to talk about. I will start with my podium, and it's going to be this. I saw this on, I can't remember, I think it was yesterday, and I had to talk about it because we've ripped it apart in the NCAA tournament when they were interviewing coaches mid-game during timeouts. Now the NFL is going to start requiring coaches to do in-game interviews. First of all, why are you bothering a guy doing his job when he's supposed to be focused on a game? What good answers are you going to get out of them, first and foremost? Second of all, like, it's just dumb. Like, I feel like there's no substance to it. Like, it's just a waste of time. It's just so, you can get your 5 seconds of not, of the sideline reporter talking. It's like, this is just dumb. Like, why would you require it? It's stupid.
Yeah,
I don't want to hear. I'd rather Dan Campbell be focused on the game than go, yeah, man, we didn't do that well. And then, like, yeah, no kidding. Like,
they've turned sports into entertainment. It's not sports anymore. It's entertainment. And apparently bothering coaches in the middle of their job is entertaining to the people they're trying to attract, which I guess are Taylor Swift fans. I don't know. I don't know about anything anymore, which leads to my podium. Last week I was not too happy about the choice of lay down James to be the flag bearer for the United States, and then lo and behold, the Olympics outdoes itself even more. So let me just preface this. I don't have this exactly word for word how it is, but basically the Olympics does not allow any athlete, and I believe or country, to promote anything religious, political, anything of that nature. I can't remember exactly what the list is, but religious and political are the big things. So, vis-a-vis Israel, for example, can't wear pins that support the people that are still being held hostage by Hamas. Ukraine can't say anything about the war that they're mired in with Russia. People can't do anything related to Christianity or their religion. On their person, on their equipment. Like, I heard about a surfer who I think ended up being disqualified because he had, a cross and a Bible verse on his board, and they wouldn't allow it. And he said, "Tough, that's my board." And I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that happened. I read a story about how, I think she might have been from Brazil or something like that. Just a little 16 or 17-year-old girl won something in skateboarding, and she found kind of a clever way to promote Christianity. And regardless, I say that because you had to have the swim team from Israel or athletes from Israel like spell something out in the pool to kind of send a message, which I thought was pretty cool because it was a good message. And meanwhile, while we can't have people say stop war, stop oppression, stop whatever, we can have the mother freaking Olympic Committee excuse away having a drag show in front of the world, which that audience was filled with children. Look, we didn't watch it because I caught wind of that and I was like, no way. But the Olympic opening ceremonies, especially for people who want it, like it's a once in every 4 years thing. A lot of these athletes, toil for years to make the Olympics, not the pro athletes. I'm not talking about NBA players, but I'm talking about like these swimmers and track and field stars and people like that. They toil for years to be able to make the Olympics, to be proud to support their country. And I don't care what country they're from. But then for the Olympic Committee to make a mockery out of the Last Supper and rip on Christianity, which, oh, by the way, is the religion of choice of, I believe, 2.5-3 billion people on earth. It's sickening. It's exactly what's wrong. And of course, at first they're like, well, no, well, we're sorry. And then it was like, well, we didn't mean it. It was supposed to be some other thing, not the Last Supper. It was clearly the Last Supper. It is very clear that the devil is trying to override everything that we do in society. I mean, it's from top to bottom. We had somebody from some Middle East country go after an Israeli, I don't know if it was on the medal podium or after or before a match, and scream Allah Akbar. And then karma struck and that person got injured and had to leave the Olympics. We have the Olympics, the World Championships did not allow a couple of men pretending to be women to compete in women's boxing, but the Olympics are letting it happen. Shocker. What you see is a mockery of what it was when I was a kid. 1980, the Miracle on Ice. 1984, even though Russia boycotted the Summer Olympics in LA. Like, those were things to be celebrated. Even like back to 96, the other games with all the swimming stuff. I don't even have interest in the swimming anymore because I'm so disgusted and appalled. Like, look, I love Snoop as a musician. I don't need Snoop Dogg to be my main commentator. I don't need this from NBC to be about race and transgenders, and they don't even show the podium ceremonies with the American flag and the Star Spangled Banner. It's sickening. It's disgusting. The Olympics this year is a microcosm of everything wrong in the world, which is overridden by the devil, period. It's blasphemy. It's disgraceful. It's embarrassing. And the fact that you also have, Jill Biden, Camel Toe Harris, and other libs praising it, you wonder where we're going to go if you idiots vote for her. That's where we're going to go, where that's normal and that's pervasive for your children and my kids' children and everybody else's children. I find it disgusting. I find it repulsive, and I'm done with it.
Yeah. Just a disgusting act.
And we'll stick to disgusting for the tee-up because we're always at the last minute finding a tee-up. How about the Dutch athlete who I think is at the time was 19, knowingly engaged with a 12-year-old girl from the UK on Facebook to arrange for a sexual relationship, knowingly had one, and is a sex offender, rapist, basically, child rapist. Not a word. He gets to compete in the Olympics. Just another example of just what a shit show clown car the world has become.
Yep.
So that's just one giant tee-up of everything Olympics, and it can all kiss my you-know-what.
It's gone to hell in a handbasket, to say the least. All right, par 3 again this week. Probably stick with that until football season officially starts when we're doing predictions and
we're gonna up it to 3 previews though. Now we got to get the heat, the pedal to the metal.
Yeah, it's almost August. Talking season's getting real warm. Big Ten had their media days last week. I think we did it Tuesday, so they were just starting, finished up on Thursday. I think all of the major conferences have done theirs. This is hilarious. The Pac-2 now, they went to the same hotel as the Big 12 did in Vegas for theirs, and they had a cocktail party. It's kind of fun.
For 2 teams.
Yeah.
Hey, whatever. Get creative, right?
Got
to try to rebuild it.
Yep. All right, let's go golf first. 3M Open was last weekend. I honestly didn't watch too much of it.
It's a fun one to watch though because of all the water that's in
play. That's a really cool course.
The closing hole, the 5th hole, or the 18th hole, that par 5.
Kind of tough with the, with all the water and
pretty windy on Saturday,
Sunday. But Johnny Vegas comes up. That's a name that I had not heard for a long time.
Barely played in 2 years.
Yeah, I'd heard it. I think he had a wrist problem. He's had back problems. and picks up his first win since the 2017 Canadian Open. So kudos to Jonathan. He's a really big guy, 6'3", 230.
Looks like Big Papi. Looks like a baseball player. He's from Venezuela.
Yep, really nice guy from all accounts. Like one of the nicer guys on tour. Hits the ball a mile. And he hit a heck of a 2-putt on 18 to win that thing.
From 96 feet or something
96
like that.
feet, put it to like 3 feet past.
He had the rookie, the 22 event guy that had
Max Grayson
thrown up a 63.
Shot a 63 and had one of the
right
more
there.
remarkable shots. Was way left and hit a low hook under the trees and got in the green. And
that was pretty spectacular.
That was pretty sweet. He kind of thought he wouldn't win, but it was cool for him to get up there, and he shot up to... he was going from 88th to 64th in the FedEx Cup, so he's...
Which matters because there's only one more
70
match in the
Wyndham,
race for that.
And then Vegas went from 149 to 67, so he shot up the board.
Cooch.
Cooch was up there.
Yeah.
First time in a while. He moved 155 to 113. If he has a good week in Wyndham, maybe he has a shot
He
at
had
it.
it was crazy how many top 10s or 20s he's had in his career.
He's had
He doesn't have a ton of wins, but he's just been a grinder and making money by being a top 10 type of guy. I mean, he's been in a lot, not lately, but he's been up there in a lot of majors. And so good to see him. You know, obviously he can't hit the ball as far as some of these young guys can at age 46, but I like to see the old dogs kind of giving the young pups a little bit of a run for their money sometimes. We've got, like Ryan said, one more regular season tournament coming up.
Wyndham and Greensboro.
And then you've got the FedEx Cup this week, and what I guess is that next weekend. So this weekend is the golf.
This weekend's the Olympic golf in Paris,
and then the weekend after is
it's the Wyndham, and then it's the St. Jude, then the BMW, which is in Colorado this year at Castle Pines, which looks pretty cool. And then
they used to play the International there, which was like you got plus points. Like if you had an eagle, you got 8 points. If you had a birdie, you got 5, whatever, something like that.
Yeah, it looks pretty sweet.
They used to play that there, and guys would just bomb it like 450 yards off the tee because of the elevation change.
Yeah,
so
it looks pretty sweet.
It might be a good chance to test the rollback on the golf ball.
Yeah. So heating up, golf is Olympics this week. Scotty, I think, is the favorite. Rory's playing Morikawa, Schauffele, Lowry, Rahm. So pretty good group.
Rahm won the Live Tour last week.
Yeah, Rahm did. He's playing better. Could see him winning the Olympics, honestly. It's at the place where the Euros won the 2 Ryder Cups ago in Europe. Le Golf, or I think is what it's called, National or whatever. Rory was given the U.S. the business again in his press conference about hitting the... He's like, I wouldn't know. I don't really hit the ball in the rough like the Americans did when we were there. But getting some fire. I saw, how about this one? Furyk made Bradley one of the assistant captains for the President's Cup.
For the President's Cup. Oh, nice. That'll be good.
Yeah,
good
good
chance
practice
for him to get some practice.
I'd heard rumblings of him doing that to give him some experience in the
brothers got to stick together.
Yep, and I think he added some. There's rumor. I know he added Webb Simpson. I think we talked about that last week. I think there's rumors he might add like a Furyk or
Freddie
Couples, or maybe I don't know if Stricker will do it or not. I think he would be a good one to have. And honestly, I heard this on I think it's called The Morning Drive, Taylor Zarzer's show on PGA Tour Radio, and he said something about maybe if they didn't qualify, or having like Spieth as a younger captain too, from been there, done that, being a part of a good amount of Ryder Cups. So
yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
got a couple of my own mailbag made up golf related questions that I thought about today. First, so we're going to Treetops this weekend, playing all 5 courses, including Treetops.
Dang, next week's going to be a crazy
81 holes of golf. I don't know if my 51-year-old body can hold up, but we'll find it. So first question, over under 0.5 hole-in-ones on the weekend from the group?
Under.
I think somebody's going to have a hole-in-one this week.
I hope it's me.
Between 9 holes of par 3 plus, on average, I haven't looked at the scorecard, but 4 per. I've been with him for one of his. He's had a couple. I've had one. I don't think Alex has had one. So my money's on somebody getting one. So I'm going to go over, you go under. So here's my second question. I think I kind of saw something related to this and I made it my own. Would you rather vote for Camel Toe Harris or give up golf for a year?
I'd rather give up golf for a year.
And what would you do if you had to give up golf for a year to fill the void?
I would start playing tennis or pickleball, honestly.
Yeah, it's a good choice.
Which I feel like I should start doing anyway.
Maybe handball?
Yeah.
Start a water polo league?
Yep. Badminton.
Dodgeball?
Dodgeball is fun. Kickball.
Some of these ridiculous things that are in the Olympics. That's like pretty much all those things. Red Rover.
There's some weird stuff in the Olympics.
All right, so those were just my random questions. But the first shot was presented by Norris Sports Group. NSG is a boutique agency of experts with 30 plus years of experience in sports sponsorship and much more. Learn more about them today at norrisportsgroup.com.
By the way, we didn't do very well in our picks last week.
One of my guys withdrew, so I had no chance.
Yeah, sick. So can't control that one. But yeah, let's go mailbag. We got some Chris Mitch-a-Palooza.
Yeah, we got some Chris and some Mitch-a-Palooza. Let's see here. First, Ryan, it's going to have to be with you on this because you probably would have paid more attention to this than I did. I paid attention to the Michigan State stuff, but Chris's first question: Big Ten Media Days best quote of the media days. Anything that stand out to you of somebody that said something really cool?
The UCLA coach, his intro. Did you listen to that?
No,
I don't. I heard it yesterday for the first time, and it was the most cringeworthy. Like awkward. You think I could?
Was that the best quote, or was it?
No, I'm saying that was like I didn't really pay attention to who said what.
Right.
Ryan Day, Ohio State spent $20 million on NIL this year, to get their roster. That's before the.
So maybe his other question: worst presser or interview? Maybe the UCLA coach.
Yeah, Deshaun
the
Foster.
worst.
Is it legal for me to play the clip of it on there? Like, is that a thing? Because I really want people to hear this.
We'll give credit to where it's due. It's probably Big Ten Network or courtesy of Big Ten Network via YouTube or something like
awkward.
That. Is it? How long is it?
Yeah, so just a couple minutes. So this is courtesy of Big Ten Football on YouTube. Hope you can hear this.
How you guys doing? I'm happy to be here. Glad to be a part of this great conference. Finally putting two great emblems together, UCLA and the Big Ten. We're a school that's won, 123 championships, so this fits us being right in this conference. Football-wise, we're just excited. I'm sure you guys don't know too much about UCLA, but our football program, but we're in LA.
What? It's got the Lou Gehrig echo going.
It's us and USC.
I've heard enough. Okay, worst presser
so
right
he goes
there.
on to do that, and it's just super awkward. Apparently, public speaking is not his
I think one thing that Chris asked too is who surprised you with the most good and or bad. I thought actually Oregon's coach, no surprise, was really good. And just the fact that Oregon floated a ginormous duck in the White River in Indianapolis. Their marketing people are heads and tails, I guess, pun intended there, ducktails, above the rest of the Big Ten. I mean, they have been forever with the whole jersey thing. I mean, they started
Nike.
The idea of alt jerseys. Yeah, I mean, Phil Knight, Nike right in their back pocket. But so I would say I could say that. I mean,
he went at Kirby Smart too, which is pretty funny.
I went and listened to obviously the Michigan State stuff and Jonathan Smith and so on and so forth. I thought there was some good stuff there. I liked what I heard. I think his coach speak is a lot like D'Antonio.
Very similar.
And I think, look, Michigan State does better as a blue collar rather than a blue chip. That's just how we've always been. I mean, D'Antonio rebuilt us on that for the time during Perlis that he rebuilt. Michigan State was rebuilt on blue collar. Duffy really kind of did that by breaking the color barrier. Big E. So love what I heard from him. This was a fun question from Chris. Fall camp starts this week. Maybe it started yesterday.
Yep.
How long until we are asking when basketball starts?
Oh, I'm hoping it's October this year. I think last year was Washington. So like,
because that was right when the debacle hit about Mel Tucker too, right?
But we were like, okay, like maybe we can win a few games. Obviously, it didn't happen. And
look, I've been reading through the position stuff, and we're not going to get to Michigan State till the end for preview, but I admittedly don't know a lot of these guys anymore. I'm not also of Ryan's age anymore when I did know all that stuff. Like I knew the entire depth chart and so on and so forth. But I will say this. I think that from some of the signals I'm getting from players, like people were just here for the bags, basically meaning the money. Some of the guys I think that was Tatum, right?
Tatum.
Some of the quotes that came out of
other.
Nate Carter and Dylan Tatum and some of the guys that represented Michigan State and some of the things I've heard out of camp, like there's not the best talent on this Michigan State team, but there's a togetherness team. And there's a teamness and there's a much better coaching staff. So I think we genuinely will be able to stay excited for a while. And I think basketball will start to amp up as we get truly closer to basketball season as opposed to way early because the season is just like throwing the towel. Yeah. So I think that's good. And then Chris follows that up with how long into basketball before we're asking about hockey. He says, this lifelong struggle of being a Spartan.
Michigan State's basketball schedule is supposed to drop soon. Playing Bowling Green, I saw. So we're playing Tum Tum.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, I mean, I think it'll kind of follow a normal cadence. Last year, the last 2 years obviously have not been good after 2021. 2021 captivated us. That team wasn't supposed to be very good coming off of a total dog crap season. So you never know. I'm not going to say Michigan State's in the top 3-4 of the Big Ten by any stretch, but I mean, I think it's very realistic, and we'll get to it again in a couple weeks, that they could get to a bowl game, which will keep our interest. And I think their schedule paces out enough. I mean, it gets a little tough in the middle because you've got Ohio State, Oregon, bye week Iowa, Michigan. So you got a 4-game stretch there that's really, really tough, and that could kind of send us into a tizzy, but maybe not. And Chris has a kind of a related question here coming soon too. So moving on, another one, crystal ball football. 4 or 5 newcomers, transfers or true freshmen that have the biggest impact besides Childs.
Jack Velling, 100,000%. I think that's a safety blanket for
Lynch,
Childs.
Right? The running back from...
Yeah, I think he could be solid.
From UMass. As like a backup guy.
Yeah, I'm going to go definitely Velling, Tanner Miller, center from Oregon, second team All-American per ESPN last year, all Pac-12. Really good player. Nick Marsh as my freshman
who's the old boy that transferred out to Illinois and came back. He could be lineman.
Dennis, I don't know if he'll play too much, but another guy. This is, I think, my favorite two favorite defensive transfers. One, Daquan Dowse from Georgia Tech, big guy, put on 20
and that linebacker, right, from James Madison.
Wayne Matthews from Old Dominion. 134 tackles last year.
That's crazy.
Faster than... He's a really, really good player. Those two are really good. And then Ed Woods, he's a corner from Arizona State. Apparently he's pretty solid. And then Nikai Martinez.
We beat out Alabama for him. So
yeah, he was going to go to Alabama, and Michigan State swayed him. So that's pretty good.
And then he says basketball, 2 or 3 newcomers that will have a major impact on basketball. I mean, Fiddler's going to have to.
Fiddler for sure. I'm going to say, does Fears count as a newcomer, really? I mean, he played like 7 games.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You think more on Jay Rich's son? Or
I like Jace Richardson a lot. From what I've heard, I think that he's going to play.
But Jackson Kohler scored 58 in a Moneyball League game.
Apparently, he was getting toasted by some true freshman from Central that's 6'9". So...
I was saying that tongue.
We're riding no center again for the 5th year in a row, but I'll go Frankie. I'll say Fears the newcomer because he didn't really play, and then Jace. I think he's going to be pretty good lefty. And he's got the lineage. So.
I was good. And then Chris has one more. Then actually, I think he has another one on top of that. But do you miss the PGA Championship being played in August? I'll say he does because there really isn't. And he did poop emoji for big time sports in August.
Yeah,
football starts, but it's all preseason hype. PGA was a major that ruled the weekend.
It was fun. Yeah, I did like it. I think it paced it out a little bit better.
Yeah, because you're front loaded with the players, then the Masters, then the PGA, then the U.S. Open, then the Open are all like boom, 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 boom.
The President's Cup's cool, not as good as the Ryder Cup, but that's.
I get why they did it, but. I agree, Chris. I liked it better in August. I mean, I think they did it for the FedEx Cup. Maybe, I don't know. There's not a way to make it part of the FedEx Cup. But yeah, I honestly kind of liked the golf playing Labor Day weekend when they did like Friday to Monday, because there's a lot of college football, but it was kind of fun.
The PGA Championship.
That could be
PGA.
That could be your final weekend, right? People who want to watch golf are going to watch golf. It doesn't matter what else is on, in my opinion. So then Chris also said for the pod, over under 3 blowout losses this season for Michigan State in football, meaning it's over in the first half, a.k.a. the boys stopped texting because we all went to golf, fish, mow the lawn instead of watching the Spartans.
You know what? I'm going to say under. I don't think Michigan State gets embarrassed. In any, that's the difference.
I'm going to go under, too.
I don't think Michigan State gets embarrassed too much. I think maybe, in the second half, maybe an Oregon, pulls away to win 41-17 or something like that. But I don't think it's going to be like the last, 3 years, going back to 2021 when we were playing Ohio State and we're losing 49-0 at halftime. And then Washington last year was 35-0.
Ohio State, Michigan.
Yeah, I mean,
we left halfway through the second quarter.
I don't think it's going to happen much. Maybe once, but you get Ohio State at home. That's their first away game, first time out of Columbus.
Playing at Michigan doesn't scare us. I mean, you got at Oregon's probably the most logical chance for that to happen, I would say.
Yeah,
it would be my guess. Okay, so now to Mitch-a-Palooza's questions. Rank these types of championship prizes: large trophy, jacket, medal, crystal.
I feel like crystal's kind of sweet. I don't know why.
I'm going. So you'd go that first, then what?
Probably large trophy, jacket, medal.
I'd go large trophy, crystal, medal, jacket.
Okay.
So who gives a shit about a jacket? I mean, I get it, the green jacket.
The green jacket.
That's the only
the
jacket. The
gold jacket for the Tour Championship
and Happy Gilmore. All right, number 2, he says, I am very excited that Jamison Williams is getting rave reviews by all the media outlets. However, I still don't think the Lions offense and Jared Goff is the right fit for his skill set. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that he's improved a lot. When we'll get to
he's
Lions.
A deep field stretcher,
yeah,
right?
And he's gotten more technical with his route running. He's put on some more weight. He looks and he's having fun out there. He's leading. Goff's not a great deep ball thrower, but I think they're going to try to work him more in the intermediate stuff. I think that's why he gained weight so he can take some more hits. Because I feel like 2 years ago, if he took it, he's going to break.
A toothpick, yeah, like Charles Rogers was really.
Right. Yeah, just a great athlete, but just no muscle mass. And I think the muscle mass helps. That's why Amon-Ra can take hits. If you've watched Receiver, you can see why that guy's an absolute freight train.
Great show, by the way, Receiver. Really like that. Number 3 from Mitch-a-Palooza. Who is the Lions' starting quarterback in 3 years? Goff, Hendon Hooker, or someone else?
I'll say Goff.
In 3 years?
Last year, yeah.
I'm going to go, it's 50-50 for me, Goff or someone else. I don't think Hooker ever sees the light of day.
No, I think he'll wash out eventually.
And then Mitch's last question, how many rushing yards will Aiden Childs have this season? He says 650. Let's go plus minus 650.
Yeah, I think that's hard to say.
That's a lot of yards for a quarterback.
I think it really depends on the offense, right? Like if
that scrambling yards or is that like planned running yards?
Yeah, I'll say under, but I feel like I think he's going to get some yards.
I think it'll be around 500.
He'll have some design QB, but they got to protect him too, right? I mean, Schuster, the 6-year guy from North Dakota, is good, but is he Big Ten good?
After that, you got just freshmen, right?
Two true freshmen.
Yeah, so good questions as always, Mitch. Chris, thanks for chiming in with a bunch. You got caught up since it's been a while. You were slacking off.
Sipping Mai Tais.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, let's go, before we go into our previews, since it's a heavy section, a word from our presenting, allergies, presenting sponsor. Team Anders Realty will help you find the home that fits your wants and needs, and they make the process simple and fun along the way. The Anders have served thousands of clients for 30-plus years in the West Michigan area and are here to serve you today. Learn more at teamanders.com.
All right, time to get back to the previews. Last week we did Michigan and Minnesota. This week we're doing 3, like you said before.
3 for the next 4 weeks.
First and foremost, we will start in Lincoln, Nebraska. The Huskers joined the Big Ten in, I think it was 2011, so this is their 14th year. That's kind of wild. Seemed like they've been there forever. Go Big Red. Probably the nicest fans in the Big Ten.
That's definitely a venue we need to get to.
Yes, I would love that. Get some good steak.
Yeah.
Good tailgating too, I'm sure. Last year, it's been Nebraska's MO. Really, I think the last really good year they had was like 2013 under Bo Pelini, and they've kind of been that team that will be right there against teams and blow it in the end. They went 5-7 last year, 3-6. In the Big Ten, lost a lot of close games, turned the ball over a lot, just had some weird miscues that have been going wrong really since Scott Frost was there. He was pretty putrid as a head coach there, going back his alma mater, and they could never get over the hump. And last year was a lot of the same with Matt Rule.
Great start.
Yep, I really like Matt Rule. If he had been available coming into this year, I would not have minded him to be Michigan State's next coach. Really, program builder, disciplined guy, doesn't take any crap.
Yeah.
I think he's going to do well there. Nebraska lost a few key guys. Anthony Grant, their best running back, Luke Reamer, and Nick Henrich, two of their better defensive players, and Quentin Newsome, he got drafted as a DB. Do have some key additions, though. I feel like they always recruit tight ends and offensive linemen really well. That hasn't changed this year. They're bringing a 4-star Carter Nelson. He's ranked number 49 overall. He's from Nebraska, pretty big kid. Good tight end. Then Grant Bricks, he's a 4-star offensive lineman. And then they're bringing in some receivers. Jamal Banks from Wake Forest. Dante Dowdell, no relation to Damon. From Oregon.
What about Raiola? Didn't he end up going there?
Okay. Isaiah Neyor from Texas. And then headlined by arguably one of the best players in the class of 2024, number 2 quarterback Dylan Raiola from Georgia. He's originally committed to Georgia, and he flipped to Nebraska. He's 6'3", 230, so that's a pretty big kid. He's the kind of presumptive starter this year for Nebraska. Big kid, really good arm. He's already apparently he's really mature and a really good quarterback. We've heard that before. Adrian Martinez started as a true freshman. That never went well for Nebraska, but I think this kid's going to be different. He's getting the hype, and I think it's warranted with his size and arm, and he's pretty mobile as well. Offense, they're bringing back Gabe Ervin, who's been a nice back for them for a few years. Bryce Benhart at offensive tackle. Thomas Fedone at tight end, and Malachi Coleman. He was a freshman last year, came on toward the end of the season. Nice player. And then in defense, Isaac Gifford, one of their better defensive backs. And then Javen Wright, linebacker, John Bullock, linebacker, and Jamari Butler on their D-line. And they return both their punter and kicker from last season. My biggest question is, can Nebraska finally break through and win a few close games? I think they might have the solution at quarterback. They have a solid offensive line per usual. Really good coaching staff. Their defense was really good and solid last year. I think it will be again this year. And their schedule sets up for a nice start. We can get to that after you kind of share some.
Yeah, they got to break out of the teenage boy routine where they're up and then right away. That's kind of was their MO last year too. But before we get to that, fun facts. 2016 is the last winning record in the Big Ten and overall for Nebraska. That was under Mike Riley. They won 9 games that year. Haven't had a drought like this since 1955 to 1961, and I'm talking about like that long of a losing stretch. They've lost a lot of close games too, by the way. 43 total conference championships, pretty impressive between their different conference affiliations. This is a cool fun fact. Lincoln rivals Omaha as the biggest city in Nebraska on their home game days.
That's crazy.
So that's the influx of people that come in. Crazy. Lincoln is a cool little town. Been years ago, but I've been there. Here's a fun fact. Nebraska handed Nick Saban the worst loss of his career, and I was there. It was Saban's first game coaching in 1995
That's
in
crazy.
Sparta Stadium, 55-10, if I remember correctly. So those are some fun facts about Nebraska. Here's their 5-year conference trend that'll give you a really good indication of where they've been, which is sucking. Last year, 3-6, tied for 4th, which was tied for last in the Big Ten West. 2022, 3-6, 6th in the Big Ten West. 2021, 1-8, tied for 6th. Somebody else went 1-8 that year. 2020, 3-5, 5th. And 2019, 3-6, tied for 5th. So, they've been like 5 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins for the last several years. So they'll typically win their non-conference and then lay an egg in conference. It's been struggle bus. Last year we picked them to go 3-0 out of conference, 3-6 in conference for 6-6 overall, good enough to squeeze into a bowl game. They went 2-1, 3-6, so therefore 5-7, and did not make a bowl game. That deciding loss was really the Colorado game. They started their season though last year good. I think they started off like 4-5-1, and then they hit the skids.
Yeah.
So then we get looking at their schedule this year. They start off with UTEP.
Dub.
UTEP is a decent team, but I don't think that's a win. And then they've got Colorado. That's a great rivalry game.
Better beat them.
Colorado's getting the hype. They
them.
lost to them last year. It's in Lincoln. I think Nebraska gets them. We agreed on that one. Northern Iowa, the Fighting Kurt Warners. That's a dub. So 3-0 start right out of the gate. And then it's Illinois. So for the 4th straight home game to start the season, that's on a Friday night. Illinois is no gimme, but I think that's a win. It's in Lincoln on a Friday night.
Yep.
Agree with that?
Yep.
Then it's their first road game, which is at Purdue, probably one of the worst teams, and we'll get to them next week, I think, in our previews. We have that for a win for Nebraska. Then Rutgers at home, and I don't listen to much sports radio just because it's very geared towards the SEC and whatever, but I just happened to be tuned in yesterday to college sports radio on Sirius XM, and they were doing their power rankings for the Big Ten. And they had Rutgers in their top 10 for power rankings. Not necessarily finished, but power rankings because of the ease of their schedule, is what they're saying. So, we have Nebraska winning that. So getting bowl eligible right out of the gate, 6-0 before a bye week. And then guess what? They come back from that bye week and they're traveling to Indiana. Dub.
Cupcake City.
So 7-0 right out of the gate.
Going to Columbus.
Then they go to Columbus. You got UCLA at home. I think that could be a decent matchup. We've got that as a win. Then they're off again. Then they go to USC. We have that as a loss. Wisconsin at home as a loss, and then at Iowa as a loss. So that is 8-4, and probably a decent bowl game. 5-4. For me, I think I have their floor at 5-7, just because that's typically where Nebraska's floor has been and where they've performed for the last 8-9 years. I think their ceiling is 9-3. I mean, I could see them, we pretty much have them winning all the games they should win. I could see them beating maybe a Wisconsin at home or even an Iowa potentially. I don't see them really having a chance at Ohio State. I really don't see them having a chance at USC. But I could see them squeezing out one more to maybe get 9-3. I mean, people in Lincoln would be pretty damn excited, especially if that's with a freshman quarterback. So that is the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
Nebraska. All right. Stay with the ends. Northwestern Wildcats, 8-5 last year. The surprise team in really all of America. 5-4 in the Big Ten. Interim coach last year, David Braun. He takes over as the head coach. So first full season with that title. Had some key losses. Brendan Sullivan transferred out after spring practice to Iowa. We talked about that a few weeks back. Lost their best receiver, Cam Johnson. Bryce Gallagher, linebacker, Rod Hurd, their best corner, transferred to Notre Dame. And then Josh Preby, talked about him last week, transferred to Michigan, offensive lineman. Some key additions, Mike Wright, he's a quarterback. He played at Vanderbilt and Mississippi State as well. He's okay at best. Nigel Glover, linebacker from Ohio State. And then got Patrick Schaller, 3-star defensive end. Need him to step up. And honestly, Northwestern it's tough to recruit there because of the academics, and I don't know their NIL situation.
They don't have a football stadium for a couple of years.
I'm guessing their NIL situation is not great. They have they're 96th overall for recruiting ranking in 100 and 22nd in transfer rating. Not great. They only got 6 guys coming in, and none of them are huge names. But yeah, on offense, coming back for the Wildcats, Cam Porter, running back, he's been around the block before. He's pretty solid. AJ Henning, good speed receiver. Bryce Kurtz, another good receiver. Ben Rather, their starting center, and then Thomas Gordon, not TG that we know, tight end, good player. And then defense, Aiden Hubbard, good defensive lineman. Xander Muller, linebacker, and Theron Johnson at corner, returning both specialists. I think that they're going to be pretty bad in the trenches this year, especially on the offensive side. D-line is better than the offensive line, but not fantastic. I think could be a struggle for the Wildcats this year. I don't think we're going to see any of that repeat magic, especially with playing a tough-ish schedule. What do you got on them?
Yeah, fun facts. One of the oldest football programs in the nation, which is maybe kind of a surprise. They had the first indoor football game in the Midwest versus Chicago in 1893. Where they would have played that, I have no idea. First off-campus preseason training camp in the Big Ten, not Camp Kenosha. This was training in southern Wisconsin in 1903. They were the first ones to play a major football game at Soldier Field against Notre Dame in 1924. They were the first experimental televising of football games in 1931. First Big Ten night game versus Purdue in 1935. First plastic football helmets versus Syracuse in 1940, because back then they were leather. They had the first African-American head coach of a D1 program, Dennis Green, in 1981 to 85. And then they had the first major college football game to be played only in one direction versus Illinois at Wrigley Field.
What?
Because of the way the end zones were, they could only play one way.
I don't remember the.
Yeah, it was 2010, it said. So, 5-year conference trend. Kind of all over the board, but under Fitz, it was very much like a one good year, one bad year. It was an even odd thing. So last year, we had them going 1-2, 1-8, 2-10, coming off of a horrible season. Given what happened with Fitz getting fired in August during fall camp, had them finishing dead last, no bowl game. Of course, we know what happened. They went 2-1 out of conference. They went 5-4 in the Big Ten, which was good for tied for second in the Big Ten West. 7-5 overall, actually 8-5 because they won their bowl game. So they were 5-4, tied for second last year, and that was coming off of back-to-back 1-8 seasons. Fitz might have been on the hot seat anyway, but then all that other hazing stuff happened, which then quietly went away. So who knows if it was really true? They just used that as a way to get rid of him. Too bad if they did, because love Fitz. But anyway, 1-8 in 2022, dead last. 1-8 in 2021, tied for sixth. In 2020, they won the Big Ten West, 6-1. 2019, they were 1-8. So it was an even year thing there for a while under Fitz. Let's go through their schedule.
Yep.
They start off with Miami of Ohio at home.
Them before.
Pretty common opponent for them, but we've got them beating Miami of Ohio.
Yep.
And they've got Duke at home on a Friday night. I think we pegged that as a loss. I could see that as a win.
It's a win, yeah. Duke's
new coach and new quarterback and whatever, but they're decent. Eastern Illinois, we have that as a win. Then they go to Washington. That's a loss.
Yep.
Bye week. Indiana at home, win. Then at Maryland on a Friday, another Friday night game for them, loss. Wisconsin at home, loss. At Iowa, loss. At Purdue, we have them winning.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State at home, loss. Although
they always play Ohio State.
They play Ohio State decently, and then at Michigan, loss. They usually play Michigan decently, and then Illinois, loss. So that's 4-8, 2-7. I kind of look at their floor as 3-9. I think they could eke out 6-6. I mean, I think if they can take care of those 3 non-conference games, I think a road trip to Washington's tough for them. They're going to be outmatched. Maryland is a swing game. They could, Maryland, we have obviously being pretty decent at with a winning record, but that's a game Northwestern could win. They're usually good for a surprise. So could they surprise Wisconsin at home, or maybe win at Iowa? They tend to play Iowa tough. Yeah, maybe. No chance against Ohio State. Probably no chance against Michigan. Illinois, they could win. So, I could see them getting to 6-6, which would be really kind of a good thing coming off of the year that they had last year and with some of the losses that they had. So that is Northwestern.
That's the Cats, the Cardiac Cats. Cardiac arrest, maybe.
Yeah.
All right, now we get to one of the media favorite, the darling, if you will,
the $20 million roster.
TOSU, the Ohio State University Buckeyes, coming off of a season which they went 11-2. Only regular season losses to Michigan. Then they lost to Missouri in I think it was the Cotton Bowl. Went 8-1 the Big Ten. Ryan Day, this is his 7th year. That's kind of crazy. He's 56-8 overall, and his only Big Ten losses are to Michigan the last 3 years.
That's crazy.
That's pretty crazy. He's done a
pretty remarkable.
Key losses. They always have key losses.
Darkest. He's got like a dark pirate.
It's like almost
pirate
like,
beard.
You know what Valenti says? It's a shoe polish beard.
Yeah, it's like plastic tushy Santa Claus almost.
Yeah. Kyle McCord, the quarterback for last year, Ohio State fans will say he was bad. I don't think he was that bad. Honestly, he was. I just don't know how their line was.
Which we knew last year. I remember talking. That was like a weakness for Ohio State, which was a rarity, and it was the edge Michigan had is because they had one of the best lines in college football.
And he transferred to Syracuse. He's gone. Marvin Maserati Marv. He's on the Cardinals now. Cade Stover, the best tight end, gone. Julian Fleming, one of their better receivers, transferred to Penn State. Steele Chambers and Tommy Two Thumbs Eichenberg, both gone, graduated.
I was going to say Eichenberg had to have graduated. He was there for like 32 years
old, yeah.
He was like Robbie Hummel.
Key additions, I'm not going to lie to you. I think Ohio State added like 15 quarterbacks to their roster.
Trying to find one.
Let me pull this up. I have it.
Look, McCord didn't have what they had previously
CJ
in quarterbacks, Justin, and so that's why he took the blame. But he wasn't going to be those guys. Braxton Miller, Terrell Pryor, even he wasn't going to be those guys. That wasn't his role. They had good running backs. They had phenomenal receivers. It was because their O-line wasn't that great. Really, is what it came down to.
So they're bringing in a 4-star quarterback. This guy's name's awesome, Aaron Noland. Kind of cool. And then transfer-wise, they bring in Will Howard from Kansas State, who, people are hyping this guy up. Solid career at Kansas State, but he got benched last year in favor of a true freshman. Mm-hmm. So how good is he? He's 6'5".
Gets him some veteran leadership. But
and then they
bring like a Craig Krenzel type.
And then they bring in a guy that was a 5-star recruit, enrolled early at Bama, and then transferred in the spring window, Julian Sayin. I'm just saying.
I'm not saying.
So they're bringing in 3 new quarterbacks, and then they have the Devin Brown guy that's been there for 10,000 years, and he swears like number 69.
When he thinks he's Devin Gardner.
And then they have another guy, Lincoln Cleanholes, who...
Cleanholes?
Yeah, like Kleinholes. I don't know how to say his name. It's weird. It's a weird spelling.
I hope he has clean holes.
But he's I think a second-year guy. So they have a lot of new quarterbacks.
But what's their biggest offensive addition?
Well, they bring in arguably the best. I think he's the best offensive transfer running back, Quinshon Judkins.
No, I'm not even talking about that. Chip Kelly.
Oh yeah, well we can get to that. I have that as a key addition as well. But Quinshon Judkins, I'll start with him. Was really good for 2 years at Ole Miss. Ohio State lured him away.
Yeah, he was fun to watch.
He's a stud. I'm not going to lie. He's fun to watch. So he's in. He's one of the better transfers, I think. They're bringing in Seth McLaughlin. If you remember that name, that's the center that screwed Alabama in a few snaps. Against Michigan he did, and then against Auburn he put him in the 4th and 31 with his weird low and high snaps. Transfers in. And of course, Ohio State always has to have a good receiver. Bringing Jeremiah Smith, number 1 player in the class of 2024. 6'3" receiver from Florida. Surprise, surprise. Ohio State gets the best receiver.
Wide receiver, you.
Then they have one of the better defensive ends, Edric Houston, really good player. And then a few other really good recruits. They had the number 3 class. And arguably the best defensive transfer as well. And Caleb Downs, who was a All-American last year, is a true freshman for Alabama. As a safety, can also play corner, returns punts. Kid's a stud. Chip Kelly took the Ohio State offensive coordinator job. He coached Ryan Day at New Hampshire. Was at UCLA and then decided he didn't want to be a head ball coach anymore. Brings a lot of experience.
Want to in the NIL deal either.
Especially with him, he's getting a little older. He's one of the best offensive minds in the modern day college football era. Is a lot. I think Ohio State's going to run the ball a lot this year, ground and pound, which brings me to their key returnees. And their biggest key returnees, Travion Henderson. They have the best two-headed monster in the country at running back with Travion and Quinshon Judkins. If Travion stays healthy, he's really good. Emeka Egbuka passed up NFL for big NIL money to come back. Stud receiver. Carnell Tate, he was a true freshman 5-star last year, really good. Josh Fryer, I think he's I think he's a guard. He's back on the line. Then Donovan Jackson, he was freshman last year, started for Ohio State on the line. He's their new left tackle. Moved over from right. He's a decent player. Defense, Cody Simon, really good, solid linebacker. Lathan Ransom, really good DB. Denzel Burke, Sonny Styles, and then Davison Igbinosun. He was a transfer last year. And then pretty studly defensive line. Tyleek Williams, pass up the NFL to come back. He's really good. Jack Sawyer, kind of in the Bosa type, body type, 6'5", big, and then arguably the best defensive tackle in the Big Ten aside from Mason Graham. That's JT Tumanlolo. I feel like he's been there for 1,000 years too, but he's probably going to be a first-round pick next year. Stud, really good player. He's the anchor. And then they have their kicker back from last year. I think this running game is pretty damn good. I think their defense is really good, really fast. Quarterback play is the biggest question for me, I think. If teams can stop the run and Ohio State's offensive line is still a little shaky, is it Will Howard? Is it going to be this Julian Sayin guy? Is it going to be Devin Brown? I don't know what they're going to do. I think this is a make or break year for Ryan Day. $20 million in NIL. This roster is arguably the best in the country from top to bottom. And just
with the 12-team playoff, they got to be
littered with pros. And they have a really, really good coaching staff. Brian Hartline's one of the best position coaches in college football. Jim Knowles, their defensive coordinator, really, really good. And Chip's obviously really good. And then have some other really good position coaches as well.
So here's the question: If they go, we'll get to their schedule in a minute. Let's just say they win 11 games and beat Michigan, and get in the playoff but lose to Michigan. Does he keep his job? I think
he's gone. If he loses to Michigan,
even if they get in the playoffs,
I think
maybe.
I think, or if they beat Michigan and they lose in the first round of the playoffs, I think he's gone. You can't. This is inexcusable. If he does not get to at least the Final Four of the college football playoff or even the national championship, I think it's a wasted year. It really is. And how do you think those donors are going to feel? They're going to be pissed.
Right. Fair. All right. So fun facts for Ohio State. I think they have 8 Heisman Trophy winners now. When I grabbed this, it was 7, but I'm pretty sure it's 8 because didn't they win? Did they win? Yeah, they won it last year. Did they win it last year? So they have 7 or 8. Anyway, it's tied with Notre Dame for the most. They have 8 national titles, 38 conference titles. Fun fact, a Buckeye is a tree species in the horse chestnut category, and the team's mascot is Brutus Buckeye. The Buckeyes have the 3rd most overall number 1 picks in the NFL draft. This team also has a ton of talent, and they have the 2nd most Rose Bowl wins in history as well. So fun facts about the Buckeyes. Last year, we had them nailed. We had them going 3-0, 8-1, 11-1, 2nd in the Big Ten, losing to Michigan, but making the New Year's 6, and that's exactly what happened. Their conference trend, unlike the previous 2 teams this week, pretty stellar. 8-1 last year, 2nd in the Big Ten. 8-1 the year before, 2nd in the Big Ten. 8-1 the year before, tied for 1st. The problem is all 3 of those times they lost to Michigan. 2020 5-0. Indiana fans would argue that Indiana should have been the Big Ten championship that year, but it was Ohio State. They got in the CFP. In 2019, they were 9-0. So, like Ryan pointed out, they have 3 Big Ten losses all against Michigan. This is a huge year for them in terms of beating said Michigan Wolverines. So, schedule-wise,
easy cup.
Their first 3 games include a bye in week 3. It's including an old MAC team is basically Ohio State goes to the MAC. They've got Akron, Western, a bye, and then Marshall. Those are 3 wins, cruising, playing multiple players, not even close.
Yeah, they can play all the quarterbacks if they want.
Yeah. Then their first road trip, they go to Michigan State. Here's the funny thing. They've absolutely just destroyed us the last couple of years. But I go back to 2016, the year after we beat them in Columbus to get to the playoff, and we were having the debacle of a season. Yeah, it was 2016.
Yeah, we almost beat them.
When Lewerke was out and Tyler almost beat them. Went for 2 to win the game late. Michigan State is probably not as bad of a team as that 2016 Michigan State team was talent-wise and whatever. But that's my point is that Michigan State tends to play Ohio State better when we're not as good for whatever reason. I don't know why. We don't live up to the hype all the time when we're good. I'm not saying Ohio State's going to lose that game, but I think, it's on the road and whatever. I think that's a chance for Michigan State to kind of give some notice that they're decent. Then they can hang with them for a little bit, and then Ohio State will walk with that. Then Iowa at home. That's not an easy game. It's usually a pretty good game, Ohio State, Iowa. And then they go to Oregon. So they're going to get that loss earlier in the season than the last
that's a
Saturday.
loss.
Then they have a bye week to lick their wounds. They've got Nebraska at home. That's a good win and a tune-up for at Penn State, which probably will be the whiteout game, I would guess.
Yeah.
That's always a tough environment. We have that as a win. Purdue at home. Purdue's going to be very good, although Purdue usually plays Ohio State tough, albeit usually in West Lafayette. So a win there. At Northwestern, win. Indiana, win. And then the truth teller, Michigan at home.
We've said it we've bet on them to win the last 3 years. We've been wrong. I think this is...
Well, last year we picked them to lose, but that game. I mean, maybe in the picks, but in the preseason we picked them to lose. So I think they get off the schneid. They beat Michigan. They get in the playoff. I agree. If they can get that win, it quiets down around Ryan Day a little bit, and they just keep building and building and building. I think Ohio State and Oregon are the two, in my opinion. We'll get to Oregon next week, but are the 2 best teams in the Big Ten, pretty much head and shoulders above everybody else. I think Penn State's decent. I think USC is decent. I think Michigan's going to fall way off. I think Washington's not going to be nearly as good as they were, so it's going to be kind of Big 2, little 16 in a way, but a different Big 2 in my opinion. So I think the floor for Ohio State is 10-2, and that's if they trip up against Michigan or against Penn State. And honestly, if that happens, Day's out the door. For sure. And I think their ceiling is 12-0. I mean, I think it's not that they can't beat Oregon. I think they'd have a much better chance if it was at Ohio State. But I think, coming off of a couple of probably physical contests at Michigan State and then against Iowa and then going to Oregon, I'd like their chances better if that was flipped with their bye, which follows Oregon. But that's where we have the Buckeyes. So the Buckeyes will be right there again in the mix, whether you like them or not.
Yeah, always are. All right, that leaves for the next few weeks. Still got Michigan State, obviously, to do. We'll do that last. Oregon, Penn State, Purdue next week, and then the week after that, Rutgers, UCLA, USC. Then finish with the W's: Washington, Wisconsin, then Michigan State, the upside down W.
That's right.
All right, let's sprint this thing home. Weirdest Olympic sport being played this Olympics.
Well, we kind of touched on this, but there are so many sports. Like, they're just not Olympic sports. Like canoeing, surfing. It's not, the surfing is in Tahiti. It's like thousands of miles away.
Mine's canoe slalom. Like, what is that? I mean, it's just weird. Like, what's going on?
Like, I get fencing is an interesting sport. I could see that. That's like an old Olympics thing.
Why is
it should be swimming, track and field, gymnastics. But yeah, like tennis, no. Golf, no. Softball, no. I don't think there's baseball.
There's soccer,
no. Like, that's not what the spirit of the Olympics is. But again, the spirit of the Olympics has become drag queens. So, no thank you.
Saw this on... I actually get a lot of... If you're ever looking for something that's interesting reads, Awful Announcing is the website. They'll post, hot takes or whatever, or... stuff from sports media, and it's pretty funny and good. They did a thing that was like best sports or TV theme songs. So, for example, the Masters theme song, March Madness theme song, CBS NFL, like all those. What's your favorite one?
Oh, it's got to be March Madness.
Yeah, that's mine. My second one's probably the Masters. Classic.
CBS College Football is a pretty close second for me too.
Saw this. I think it was on ESPN. They did like top 25 players since 2000. So I just decided to change that and say best college quarterback since 2000.
Oh, that's going back a ways. I mean, you got some guys in there. You got like Vince Young, Matt Leinart, all the Ohio State quarterbacks, Tua. Oh, I'm going to go Vince Young.
I'm going to go overall career, Tim Tebow.
Yeah, 2 natties. Hard to argue with that. Yeah, hard to argue with that.
They saw this. This is on Spartan Mag. Jim Comparoni posted this, and they saw some good fodder about it. So, question. Who inherited a worse situation? Mark D'Antonio in 2006, 2007 when he took over, or Jonathan Smith now?
That's a good question. Jonathan Smith inherited poorly coached guys that didn't really care about being at Michigan State. Mark D'Antonio just got guys that were just not great Big Ten caliber. I mean, John L. Smith had some dudes, no question, like Drew Stanton and some guys like that. There were some guys. His style just never fit at Michigan State. Honestly, when Bobby Williams left, that went to hell in a handbasket because he was in way over his head. Like, he had T.J. Duckett, he had Charles Rogers, he had Jeff Smoker. Like really good he had some amazing. And Smoker was still around for John L. Smith for a year. Like, he had some amazing players, and he let it go to hell in a handbasket with who knows what Smoker was doing. Coke, pop, I don't even know what it was, but all those guys. Like, I think John L. Smith inherited probably more talent. But then didn't give D'Antonio
some
as
guys,
much. Then
like
he didn't
Devin
give him
Thomas,
much.
Hoyer.
I think there's arguably, like, personality-wise, I think Smith inherited a worse team.
I agree.
Talent-wise, I think D'Antonio probably inherited a worse team.
I agree with that. I think that overall the worst situation is Smith.
Yeah, because that's just hard to rebuild from that. The trust factor.
Left a full bowl.
Yeah, it was overflowing.
Sure. Yes. Yeah, flooded the bathroom. All right, that's 184. Appreciate you guys listening. Could not do this without you. Let your friends know about this one if they're interested in football. They can listen to some couple schmoes like us talk about Big Ten. We're super excited for what's coming up here in the next month.
Don't want to wish summer away, but there's good stuff coming.
There is. NFL is going to be great. I'm excited for it. And we got a good golf weekend coming this weekend. I don't know if I'm going to be able to walk. It's funny because I played Thursday through Sunday. I played 45 holes last week. I'm playing 81 holes this weekend. Then I'm supposed to play 36 again next weekend. So I don't know how I'm going to move. I might need to take a...
You're a baby. You're only 25.
Well, played a college sport, so
all right,
kind of washed.
Meanwhile, we'll go a little bit more serious with a quote given my podium this week from the book of Matthew, chapter 12, verse 31. And so I tell you, every sin and blasphemy will be forgiven men, but the blasphemy against the Spirit will not be forgiven.